Are you recording? Good. Hello everyone. This is G and I'm back with another video. Sorry to start the video off with something cute. Saturday is Catterday and Catterday is Saturday. Say hi RJ. Hi RJ. Alright, as we often do on this channel, wholesome kitty fan service. Alright RJ, go. He's gonna scratch me later, I can already tell. He's gonna scratch me later for waking him up from his nap, but he's been laying up under me all day long. So you can, like, appear on camera for a few minutes and get me a few extra views, cat. But anyway, I hope everyone's doing well. I know it's been about a week since I've made a video. I've been very busy, and when I haven't been busy, I've been tired. For those who are longtime viewers of the channel, you already know that, especially at this time of the year, around the summertime, I have very large and very long work projects that sort of eat up all my time, and then of course, everything else in life, right? So videos are probably going to be sporadic, more or less, for the rest of the year. So for those who are new, uh, if I go a week or two without putting out a video, I'm not dead. I'm just busy and tired. As I've said in other videos, I don't do this for money. I just basically give my opinions on things as they come up when I can finally get around to them. And there'll always be more things to talk about than time that I can realistically dedicate to making a video or to covering them. But when I have the time and when I have the energy and when I have a topic that's interesting enough, I do so. So, this topic has sort of caught my attention, right? So, we have this person, Elise Cedeno, right? According to Twitter here, oh, wonderful Twitter, where all the same people go, right? Says that she's an educator and fantasy literature scholar, she, her, hers, right? So pronouns in bio, right? But she says this, right, about Tolkien, and there's this sort of debate now going around interpretations of certain relationships in Tolkien's works, right? In particular, there are some saying that the characters of Sam and Frodo were lovers, or that they were in love, right? That there was a queer romance there, where others are saying no, it's just brotherly affection. It's just, two men having a very close friendship, right? Now, I will admit, I am not familiar with the works of Tolkien. I'm not a Lord of the Rings person. Uh, I know that sounds sacrilege to a lot of people, but I've just never been a big fan of that high fantasy, swords and sorcery, elves type of thing. But I've heard of it, right? There were movies. The stories have been around for God knows how long, right? And obviously, there's something impactful about the work for it to have lasted, all these decades now, right? Because I think the original stories were written probably somewhere, in the early mid 1900s, because Tolkien, I think, fought in the First World War, if I remember correctly. So that's the early 1900s. That's like 1914 to about 1919. So these stories have persisted for decades for a reason, and it's not just because of Hollywood adaptations decades later, right? But anyway, this lady here says, hey, Tolkien peeps, for the half that's being loving and supportive and awesome, keep going, I love you. In other words, the half that agrees with her, right? The half that agrees with her on this um, queer, I guess you could say, interpretation of the relationship between Sam and Frodo, right? So she's, not obviously in support of those who agree with her, right? So she says, for everyone else, shut up. I guess she's tapping into her inner Chris Jericho. Just shut up. You don't own Tolkien. You don't own his thoughts or his creation, nor do you own others' interpretations of the work. To which I say, that's all true. But that also applies to you, Miss Cedeno. You don't own the work. You're not part of the family, right? You don't own the man's thoughts. You don't own his writings. You don't own the interpretation and understanding of those works and writings either. And you don't own the interpretation of, or rather, other people's interpretations and understanding of his work. So that statement applies to you as well, right? So she goes on to say, right, She goes on to say, be a homophobe, a racist, and an asshole, fine. I can't change your mind, and unless you're willing to do the work, I'm not going to try and convince you that other human beings matter. Well, here's the first thing, honey. That type of approach is never going to convince someone of anything, right? Calling them names, calling them social ills like a homophobe and a racist, and just calling them, a jerk, an asshole, is not going to get people who don't see things your way to see things your way. It's not even going to get them to open their mind enough to even consider your point of view. When you speak like this, you're indicating you don't want a conversation because you are being needlessly insulting toward people that you don't know, and you don't know why they disagree with you. So you're shutting down conversation or any sort of conversion, and I speak as a Christian. You are shutting down any conversation or conversion that could happen when you approach people in this needlessly aggressive manner. You don't want a conversation when you talk like this. You want to fight, right? You should know that already. But keep your damn mouth shut. Tolkien is not looking down and cheering you for being a stalwart defender of his work. Well, you're certainly not being a stalwart defender of his work. In fact, you're trying to use the fact that he's dead, right, as a justification for having a very, let's say, radical interpretation of the man's works, considering the time he grew up in, the time he wrote the works, what he went through in his life, in particular fighting in World War I, and the fact that, to my understanding, he was a devout Catholic. Right, so at that time, if a devout Catholic was going to insert queerness into a work, it probably would have been to condemn it. Right? But here's the thing. So she continues, right? He's dead. Oh, because we totally were not aware of the fact that Tolkien has since passed away. I mean, had no idea that a work that the creator of a work that the creator of a work who fought in World War One, which took place in the early 1900s, was dead by this point. Oh my days, we had no idea. We thought he was immortal. Right? What more, he relinquished true ownership when his work was published. And no, he didn't. Publishing is not relinquishing of the work. Publishing is just that. The work gets published. It gets published and then it gets distributed to a wide audience, which will hopefully enjoy the stories and pay money for them. That's not him relinquishing the work. It's not him selling the rights away. Right now, maybe if he sold the rights to a movie studio or whatever, maybe he'd have a point. But again, he had no chance to because by the time it became a movie, he was long dead. He knew that there was more than one way to interpret his work. That is indeed true. And fan interpretations of works, fan understandings of works have always been around. And he never had any say or control over how individual fans interpret his work. But just because fans will see something or read something or understand something a certain way does not mean that's how the original writer saw it or intended it. I've seen this all the time in manga, in anime, in comics. I've seen it in music, right? Especially because songs, um, what's what I'm looking for? Song lyrics, I should say, right, are not always obvious. Right, for example, a lot of rockers will, sing about drugs, about how they love a particular drug or whatever, but they'll give it a woman's name, right? And it'll sound like a beautiful love song to a woman, right? But it's actually about a drug, right? That type of stuff happens in music all the time, right? Or certain lines that are said or snuck in, right? There'll be different interpretations of what the line means. Most of the time, it's something related to sex, right? And sometimes it's not related to sex. A good example in music is the song "Turning Japanese," right? The rumor for the longest was that it was supposed to be a euphemism for the face a man makes when he reaches the peak of pleasure in a sexual moment. And the band that wrote the song was like, no, we were not talking about that. Not in that song, at least. Right? So, fan interpretations, right, and the intent of the artist, of the creator of the work, are at times going to be at odds. That's just normal. But that doesn't mean that you, my dear, have the one true interpretation, have the one true understanding, right? You may feel you do, and if you understand the work a certain way, more power to you. But it's exactly your understanding. That's it. It does not impact anyone else's understanding of the work. And it certainly does not impact how the creator, who's now long dead, originally intended something, right? Or how he saw the work, how he saw those moments as he wrote them, right? So she continues, he knew that there was more than one way to interpret his work. That is indeed true. In fact, he told us. Oh, where are the writings? Where did he specifically say that? He wouldn't be wrong, but still, it's like, if you're gonna say he told us, like, can you give me a quote, something, some proof, honey? Right, that there was more than one way to interpret his work. So why are you gatekeeping? Ah, the person who's been insulting and telling others to shut up and literally only showing any sort of positive feeling toward those who would agree with her is now going to accuse those who disagree with her of gatekeeping. Ah. So why are you gatekeeping? Why do you feel the need that your interpretation is the only one? I agree, my dear. Why do you believe that your interpretation is the only one true understanding? Right? And that you have to hurt people to get your way. Who's been hurt? Tell me. I want to know. Who's been hurt? Outside of your fifis being offended, tell me. Who has been hurt? Who has been adversely impacted by some people saying, hey, Sam and Frodo were just friends. They weren't gay. Right? Tell me. Wait, what's that I hear? The deafening sound of silence, because you can't actually prove what you say. Got it. Got it. Thank you. Right? And then she says, just shut up. Shut the hell up. I indeed agree. To quote Chris Jericho, would you please shut the hell up? I agree. You should shut up. Because you are trying to silence others. Because you are being needlessly rude toward others. Because you refuse to understand that people are not going to see the world or see the work the way you do. You are clearly projecting, and you're too caught up in your own hype to realize that. And then, of course, we have some tweets here at the bottom right. So, you are so close to self awareness, if only you would not project it on others. Another one saying, neither do you. You don't own interpretations. Exactly. And then it says, the cognitive dissonance in your tweet, right? So most people are pointing out, the hypocritical nature of her calling other people out when all this can be applied to her, which is why it's called projection, right? Read everything you just wrote out and apply it to yourself. Exactly. Exactly. Now, the reason I cover this is because while I am not necessarily too familiar with the works of Tolkien, I am familiar with shipping. Being a longtime anime fan, I mean, I remember the Hiei Kurama shipping wars from Yu Yu Hakusho. That's how far back it goes, right? I am a sort of veteran of sorts of that fandom war, having watched it played out. I personally don't engage in shipping too much, right? I think the only couple that I ever shipped in a work was Roy and Hawkeye in Fullmetal Alchemist, because dear God, it's Roy and Hawkeye. It's beautiful. It's tragic. But anyway, I've always been of the opinion that, you know, you're going to see what you're going to see, right? Humans have been shipping each other real and fake, since the advent of humanity, right? Matchmakers, right? Friends trying to pair you up, family trying to pair you up, right? Oh, that boy's nice. He's a doctor. He's available. He's single. You might want to, get his number, right? All that stuff, right? So we'll always be doing that, right? As a species, right? So we're always going to be reading into works, reading into subtext that is there and not there, and then of course there's things like uh, the generation you come from, the type of culture you were raised up in, right, and all these other things that will sort of color your understanding and your interpretation of a work. And hey, if you see something and that is true to you, that's okay, right? But your personal truth or your personal understanding of a work does not mean that it's official. For example, I'll go back to the Hiei Kurama thing in Yu Yu Hakusho. Right? They were shown to have a very close friendship. But the mangaka, right, Yoshihiro Togashi, I think his name is, right? He said that if he could go back and write the work over, he probably would make them a couple because of how fans saw it, right? But that the way it was written, the way he intended it at the time, they're not a couple. They're not gay. And they're not in love with each other. They're just very close friends, right? And so to me, that's the official understanding. I personally never thought that there was anything romantic between them, and I've watched the anime in English, I've watched the anime in Japanese, I've read most of the manga, so I'm quite familiar with the series. I never saw anything that could come across as romance, but other people did. And okay, fine. Your personal understanding might be that they're lovers. There's fan fiction for that, right? You want to read it or you want to write it. There's fanfiction.net. I got no problem with it. I've read plenty of fan fiction. I've written some. So if you interpret it that way, and you want to see stories where they're an item, okay, there you go. I don't think fanfic is wrong in any way. What I think is wrong is when people try to force their own personal fan fiction, their own personal headcanon, and try to make it canon, right? Try to make it real, try to make it official. See things my way. No, no. While I do think that a creator should sort of have an idea of how the fans are responding and understanding their work, and should certainly be respectful of the fans, no creator is entitled to make their work the way the fans want it, right? Because the fans aren't writing it. The fans are responding, the fans are reacting, and that's fine. And again, yeah, be mindful of what the fans think or say or whatever, but it's not the ship, right? If it were a ship, the fans are not the captain of the ship, right? The creator is. Creator or creators are the captain of the ship, right? They're the navigation team that decides where the story is going to go and how the story is going to end. The fans are the passengers, right? And if certain passengers don't like the path it's going on, those passengers are perfectly fine to get off the boat, right? That's okay. But the passengers have no say in where the boat goes or how the boat gets to that destination because they're not the ones navigating it. The navigation team is, right? And it's the same for storytelling. You can dislike how a certain arc went or what a certain character did or a certain pairing. We all have opinions on that thing on those grounds, right? If I had written this story or that story, this is how it would have went. And that's fine. Again, write your own version of it, publish it on a AO3 or fanfiction.net or whatever. I'm not saying in any way to not have your own personal opinion about things. You can have that. But there's a difference between having a personal opinion of something right? Or even being, an armchair quarterback, right? Well, if I had written it, I would have done it this way. And then trying to force your interpretation to be the interpretation, to be the truth, to be official, right? And then when people push back and disagree and they say, no, you know, that's not the way it was written, it's not the way it was intended, because of this thing or that thing or whatever the author said or whatever, and then you literally tell the other side repeatedly to shut up, right? And then you claim that they don't have ownership, which is true, but you don't have ownership either. And then you go on to call them social ills and call them names because, again, they're not seeing things the way you do. That is not the way to preach a message, religious or otherwise. No one's going to listen to you if you tell them off the bat that they're terrible, right? Nobody wants to have some stranger go up to them and go, "You are awful because you don't see the world the way I do," right? As the saying goes, right? You will get more flies with honey than you will vinegar, right? You'll attract more people if you have a generally more acceptable, right, message, right? If you're not attacking people. If you seek to have a conversation, well, then you might win one or two people over. Most of the time, you won't. But at the very least, if you have a conversation, people will feel respected. They might change their mind later. They may not. But at least they'll understand where you're coming from, and you'll understand where they're coming from. It becomes this interchange where both benefit because you both learn. But when you come into a situation, right, with a closed mind, like Miss Cedeno has, and you have no intention of actually having a conversation and learning something, well then, how do you grow? How do you learn? How do you come to understand others if you just shut them out like this? These type of tweets, and to be clear, as anybody who's followed my content on YouTube or Twitter can attest, I can be quite the contentious individual, and I will challenge people on things, and I have no problem, right, if I get insulted or whatever, responding in kind. It's a flaw. if you throw, you hurl insults at me and I get angry enough, I will do the same to you. But generally speaking, I seek to understand because I seek to learn. And I'd like to think that that's the better approach to these type of contentious things than to just shut the door before it was even opened by saying, "Shut up. If you disagree with me, shut up. You're just an evil social ill. You're a problem. You're problematic. Just shut up." I have never seen a conversation change a person's mind with that approach, and I've yet to see an argument won with that approach. But then again, I'm just one knucklehead with an opinion. But anyway, please let me know what you think, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day or night wherever you are. Bye.